Hello and welcome to our daily devotion where we share this one thing from our Revised Common Lectionary for Thursday, June the 11th. My name is Pam Maston. I'm one of the associate pastors here at First Presbyterian Church of Fort Lauderdale, and thank you for joining me today. When our kids were little, my husband and I enjoyed reading bedtime stories to them. We all had our favorites, and one of my favorites is still on my shelf in my office. It's The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. It's really a book for every age in which the author tells the imaginary story of a stuffed rabbit who came to life because its owner loved it. And the reason why I love this book is mostly because of the conversation between the stuffed rabbit and the toy riding horse called the Skin Horse. The rabbit asked one day, "What is real? Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and stick out handles?" The Skin Horse said, "Real isn't how you are made. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." The rabbit asked, "Does it hurt?" And the Skin Horse said, "Sometimes it does, and it doesn't happen all at once. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally," he said, "by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand." I love this part, and I bet many of you remember the wonderful children's book somewhere in your journey. Our passage for today comes from the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 16 to 24. And Paul wrote this letter to the Galatians to answer specific problems within particular churches and in order to help Christians in Galatia to resist false teachings. Friends, as we grow in our relationship with Christ, we grow in the fruits of the Spirit that Paul was writing about. Paul was urging the believers to live by the Spirit, to rely on the Spirit. The desires of the flesh oppose the Spirit, but the desires of the Spirit deliver us from the flesh and the law. And we need help. Yes, we need help. It's a process, and sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it hurts, as the Skin Horse told the rabbit. Well, as we listen carefully to the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, what fruit or fruits are you drawn to today? And why? I was drawn to the third portion of the fruit here, which is peace. And I think we are all yearning for peace today. And I'm not talking about living without conflict or being still. I'm talking about a peace in our hearts that comes from a deep understanding that we belong to God. We are in God's hands. Peace is a calmness in your soul, your inner self. It doesn't mean that we don't have any conflict or stress or difficulties in life. Even Paul had his fair share of troubles as he wrote from prison. "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances," from Philippians chapter 4. This one thing for today is the same reminder that Paul urged the Galatians in this passage. "So I say," Paul wrote, "live by the Spirit. Let us keep in step with the Spirit." Live by the Spirit. Let us keep in step with the Spirit. Paul was big on peace, and he knew that peace doesn't depend on our circumstances. Rather, it is the Spirit that flows within us. Friends, we live in swirly times, and there are many, many things that are beyond our control. But let's determine to cling to the promise of God's word so that our heart and minds are guarded from worry. And over time, and as our trust in God grows, we can learn to be content whatever the circumstances. Friends, we are all in this together. Let's live by the Spirit. Let us keep in step with the Spirit. Friends, stay well, and thank you for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow.